Welcome to this week's Hymn of the Week. This week we have ELW 269, Joy to the World. The text by Isaac Watts, also known as the father of English hymnody. And of course, as we know, historically, he argued for hymns and actually was against the Calvinist practice of the day of singing metrical psalms. So we can see that reasoning here with this text being composed. Now, this is very important to point out, and it's often misunderstood, so I'll make it quick. Joy to the World is not a Christmas hymn. Yes, it does relate to Christmas. Yes, it could relate to Advent, but it really has no connection technically to Christmas. Here's a connection that we can make, though. The heading for Isaac Watts that he had with this text was the Messiah's coming and kingdom. So this would make sense why the ELW would place it at Advent, or maybe even, so to say, sandwich it between the end of Advent and the beginning of Christmas. So it would make sense to sing Joy to the World on the last Sunday of Advent. It may also make sense to sing Joy to the World on the third Sunday of Advent, the Sunday of Joy. But basically the important thing to understand here is the heading that Watts had above this text was the Messiah's coming and kingdom. And the other part that's important to understand is it's based on the second half of Psalm 98. So I'm going to skip ahead, but feel free to read the "O Sing to the Lord a New Song." That's how Psalm 98 begins on your own time. But here I'm starting with verse 7. "Let the sea roar and all that fills it, the world and those who live in it. Let the floods clap their hands. Let the hills sing together for joy at the presence of the Lord, for he is coming to judge the earth. He will judge the world with righteousness and the peoples with equity." So, of course, there's a general verse about praise, but then you can see, as we can with verse 4, he rules the world with truth and grace and makes the nations prove the glories of his righteousness. So Watts is really writing Psalm 98, and it would make sense if he's against that practice of singing metrical psalms, or psalms metrically, that he would compose a text or create a text that would work with a hymn tune. So keep that in mind as you're singing this Christmas. Yes, Joy to the World does certainly work for Christmas, but it's really not an official Christmas song/carol. That does not ruin it all for me, though. Joy to the World is still a favorite hymn of mine, and it's another great excuse to sing what many consider Christmas song at other times of the year. However, let's look at the tune next. English melody, 18th century, arranged Lyle Mason. Now, we've seen in older hymnals, Georg Friedrich Händel. We'll see his name listed, but now we know much more. Research has established. Here's something that's interesting about the tune, though, that many do not know, and I just learned this recently myself. The tune Antioch, as it's called, was joined more than a century after the hymn was written. So it's interesting to see here we have a text. We're talking a century here. So this is a long time before this tune was actually matched with this text. And Lyle Mason arranged it from Händel. That's what we have now determined. If we look at the beginning, the Joy to the World, glory to God in the highest, and the peace. That's from Handel's Messiah, the very famous oratorio, right? So it is definitely quoting glory to God. Interestingly enough, just like many figured and discovered over the years, it is also the major scale. But it has those moments and pieces of Handel's writing. And some even would say that it's somewhat like "Comfort Ye All My People" from Handel's Messiah, which you're welcome to listen to after this video. Please go and listen to it. Handel's Messiah, great work. Now, the other discussion that's ensued about the tune is the second half. Some consider it a fuguing tune. Let me play both parts to get it. So I'm not not sure if I could go that far to say, because with the fuguing tune, you have those entrances that may be a few bars later, but we do have this American writing and style of the fuguing tune through William Billings and primarily that we can really see here. And the reason why, and I jotted down some characteristics. The first is that angular melodic writing certainly is very clear here, but also the rhythmic simplicity. It's very easy to sing dun 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 da da da, and it's also precise, which we also experience in the fuguing tunes of William Billings. And then, of course, we have this diatonic harmony, these chords that we're expecting, that are very straightforward. So it's an interesting tune, and it will probably last quite a long time into the future. This is Joy to the World. I like adding that timpani-esque ending because it welcomes in, just like Isaac Watts mentioned it, the Messiah's coming in kingdom, that's coming and that is coming. So it reminds us of that, and so I like adding that kind of timpani-esque effect at the end. I do want to give credit. I've used some ideas from David Lasky for the beginning and also Hal Hobson for the interlude. And my hope is that, and I say this very sincerely, that you could celebrate Christmas each day of the year. This is one of those tunes that you can, like I said, use it. Use this text and tune not just on Christmas Day, but other days of the year. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Thank you very much for listening to Hymn of the Week.